Hi everyone, back again. Apparently I got cut off. I don't know what's going on with Facebook, but I think the other video, the first half, is watchable. So if you want to go back and watch that and catch up, then I think that's what happened is it just cut off partway through. So what I was discussing about play fighting was the differences between play fighting and real fighting. And so how can we determine that and kind of keep an eye on what's going on with our kids? So um, this is sort of obvious, but in the research literature, they talk a lot about play fighting. With play fighting, all the people involved, the kids involved, are cooperating with the play scenario, and they're all kind of on the same page and knowing that it's just pretend. And so that's something to keep in mind if you're watching your kids play in Rough House and Rough and Tumble, that everybody knows it's just playing. We're not trying to hurt each other, and that's the other part of it is there is no real intention to harm anybody. And so that is sometimes where if kids aren't clear about what's going on, someone could probably, possibly try to hurt another kid in the play scenario, like really hurt them for real. But then that is crossing the line, right? Play fighting means that we're just pretending, nobody's really trying to hurt anybody. There's no harmful intent. And so that is a very clear way of kind of distinguishing, in my mind. You know, there are times when accidents happen and a kid can get hurt when someone kind of takes it too far. But for the most part, play fighting is just pretend and no one's actually trying to hurt the other person. So I think as you look at your kids playing, whether at home or if you ever see them playing with friends or whatever at a park, then that's kind of the thing. I think that's what I look for is like, is someone really have a harmful intent in this situation, or are they just playing? And if everybody in the situation knows we're just playing, we're not trying to hurt anybody, then usually it goes fairly well. But again, this is a situation where there's a lot of intuition involved, and there's a lot of like knowing your kids about what they feel comfortable with and knowing kind of what their limits are. And so everything, their limit for each child is different. Some kids can handle being pushed and shoved a little bit and it not bother them, and some kids it would. And so you kind of have to figure out for your own child and help your child figure out, okay, what are my limits and what do I feel comfortable with this play fighting situation? And if they don't feel comfortable with something, you can extract them from that situation, or you can help them learn how to talk to their friends and be like, okay, I don't want this part of this play fighting or whatever the situation is that they're not comfortable with. Um, but as parents, I think it's helpful to know from a research perspective that for the most part, play fighting is normal, and it is, and this type of pretend play actually can have some benefits in terms of social emotional development and things like that. And I went over that in the first part of the video before I got cut off. Um, and the other thing to think about, and I was rereading this interview, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this researcher, Stewart Brown. He's a big proponent of play and free play, and he's done tons of research on free play. And one of the things that he continues to talk about, and I think this is just really important to think about, is the developmental benefits of free play and not having too much structure and letting kids kind of figure things out for themselves when they're playing. And over all the studies that he's done, one of his main lines of research is looking at people who are in prison, mostly men, and who have committed violent crimes. And he has studied their histories from their childhood as much as he can put together. And some other colleagues of his have done this too. And what they continue to find is that people who have criminal history, one of the main things that separates them from the rest of the population is a lack of free play in their childhood, almost to the point, and some of them it comes with abuse and neglect. Obviously, people that are in prison have a greater proportion to have a history of abuse and neglect, but to the point of almost no free play. They were so restricted and so limited in their activity and their free play that they didn't almost really have a normal childhood. And not to say that any of us would have that experience with our kids, but it is interesting to note that this free play, unstructured play, has such an important role in child development. And so that's, one of the reasons I started this group was to try to bring to the forefront of our knowledge and our awareness this importance of free play. And so if I'll post, I might post the interview with Stewart Brown in here because it's really fascinating. It's not meant to scare anybody, or because most of us and most of our kids are growing up in a typical environment where they have plenty of time to play. It's not like any sort of restriction like to that point. But I think it is important to realize our culture is starting to value free play less and less in support of more structured play. Everything has to have rules. The adults always have to be in charge of the rules and that type of thing. And, and there has to be some limit to that at some point, it seems like. And so that research that he's done is really supportive of that idea that free play is still a really valuable part of a child's development. And so I think that just reiterates that point even more, that we're trying to support in this group. And so if you have questions about this topic, play fighting and rough and tumble play, and you're watching this later, feel free to post a comment and I will try to get back, or other members of the group may get back. We are trying to all foster an atmosphere of conversation and support in this group. So thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful, and I will post a few articles that are relevant to this topic in the comments, and I hope you have a great Friday.